Cowardice asks, the question, is it safe? Expediency asks, the question, is it politic? Vanity asks, the question, is it popular? But conscience asks, the question, is it right? And there comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe, nor politic, nor popular, but he must do it because conscience tells him it is right.
Every time our country stands in the path of danger, an instinct seems to summon her finest first, those who truly understand her. When freedom shivers in the cold shadow of true peril, it's always the patriots who first hear the call. When loss of liberty is looming, as it is now, the siren sounds first in the hearts of freedom's vanguard.
Fighting for humanity and against globalism, one mind at a time. It's the Freedom Link with Joe Joseph.
Well, welcome aboard, everybody, to the Good Ship Freedom Link. It is the 4th of March, 2023, and boy, oh boy, what an exciting week it was, both personally and in the world, geopolitically. Just about anywhere you go, there is that unsettling feeling in the air. But tonight we're going to talk about a lot of things. Among them, let's see, food shortages. That's a good one. We'll start there. Also, rampant crime going on in Oregon, causing Walmart to have to shutter all of their stores in Portland. We'll get into the details there. But also, what is this driving us to? And what is the way that this is possibly going to materialize? We'll get into that, as well as listen to the voices through history. And what does history tell us? What do those voices say from the past? And how close are we tracking to that? Now, before we get started, though, a very, very, very important thing or aspect to being able to keep up with the rapid pace of, having to deal with inflation, having to do more. You're doing more things that perhaps you had a service for that you have to kind of do yourself now because the dollar doesn't get as far. People are tightening their belts everywhere. But one thing that's very important, in order to keep up that intensity, you got to stay hydrated, right? So KGRA, as a wonderful partnership and with Fuel Up, and I have the pleasure of having the CEO of Fuel Up, Kevin Keekler, here tonight to discuss how beneficial that is and what we can do for you to help you keep up and maintain that intensity and that energy level that you need when you have to keep up with life. So I want you to check this out. First thing, I got a quick video I want to show you, and then we'll have Kevin come on. Go ahead. Take it away.
Did you know 75% of Americans are chronically dehydrated? If you struggle with focus, run low on energy, or when it's time to finally sleep, you simply can't, this can all be linked to dehydration, and Fuel Up has the answer. Our proprietary formula contains the finest cellular hydration with the strongest immune-enhancing natural ingredients. The Fuel Up system is made up of 3 different incredibly tasting varieties. Wake kickstarts your day with a jolt of caffeine. Play boosts focus while hydrating your cells. Rest not only helps you relax, but also rejuvenates your cells while you sleep. Here's what our clients have to say.
I really don't miss my coffee, and you can tell the difference.
So I'm gonna take it for the energy. I'm gonna take it for the play. I'm gonna take it, all day.
And it works. That's the thing. It works. We love it.
Take the Fuel Up Challenge now, where we offer a feel the difference money back guarantee. Fuel Up for life.
Okay, so I want to welcome Kevin to the show. Kevin, welcome.
Thank you, Joe. I tell you what, I've done a few of these KGRA specials, and
Yeah.
wow, your intro gave me chills.
Oh,
Awesome,
really? That way,
awesome. Oh my
Bill.
God.
That's all Bill.
You
Hey,
know,
he's
you,
quite the talent.
it's all about our veterans. It's all about what we're about here. And I just want to tell you, I was getting a little choked up watching it. So
Oh, I
anyway,
appreciate it.
I'm gonna tell you a little bit about Fuel Up if I can.
Please do. Yeah, please do.
How are you feeling today?
Well, I got to tell you. Full disclosure, I've been given the opportunity to try it out, and one thing that I want to say is that prior to taking it, I was always prone to having cramps when I sleep at night. It's terrible. You wake up and your hamstrings locked up. So since I started using the Fuel Up, I don't get that anymore. I haven't had any of those leg cramps, and that's the interesting thing it was uh, dehydration. That's what kind of the root cause was.
No doubt, no doubt. Our CFO is a big runner. He's a marathon runner. He runs 20 miles a weekend, which
Yeah.
I don't think I've run 20 miles since college. But anyway, he used to say that Monday mornings were miserable because lactic acid, all the cramps, has no issues anymore. So
Yeah.
we've got a 3-part system, and
Yep.
I'll be honest, Joe. I worked in this formula for 7 years as far as proprietary formula. The proprietary part of our product is that, and again, I honestly believe we have the finest cellular hydration drink with the strongest immune enhancing ingredient out there. And our proprietary formula helps with cognitive skills. So you're talking about focus, concentration, energy, and our wake has 180 milligrams of good caffeine. So people drink coffee and all that stuff. You're going to wake up, you're going to drink this. Within 20, 25 minutes, you're going to feel the difference. And then you take our play, which is our proprietary formula without an active ingredient like caffeine. You can drink it all day long. I mean, I've got people drinking 3 and 4 or 5 a day.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, yes. It's they replace their soft drinks, their waters, tea, iced tea, anything. And then you go into our rest, which rest has again our proprietary formula, which helps you. When you sleep, Joe.
Yeah.
What do you do? You heal. Your body
You heal.
heals. It's a God-given thing. Your body heals.
Right.
So when you sleep, but what we do is we enhance that with rejuvenation, recovery. So when you wake up, you feel refreshed, but your body's like, whoa, something's going on here. Here's the big deal. Here's what Fuel Up's all about. A couple things. One is it tastes great. It tastes great.
It does.
You know how many products out there people go, you got all these vitamins and nutrients and packed with all this great.
I was expecting, I'll be honest with you, I was expecting that protein drink.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You got all that thickness. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
it's there now.
Well, what's great is that when we launched this product 3 years ago, we came out with a product that had 17 grams of sugar. That's a lot of sugar.
That's a lot of sugar.
Good sugar. But now we have 2 grams of sugar across our system, and we have 6 grams of carbs. The Wake has 3 and 7, but I mean, low cal, low sugar.
Yeah.
And it tastes great.
So I got a question from the audience, or actually
Really?
it's more of a comment, but I'll put it up here. It says, then you're waking up all the time taming a leak. So now that's not true though, because I don't think it has to do with the volume of water that you're taking in. It's how your cells absorb it. Is that correct?
That is a great point. Thank you for whoever sent that in. Here's the deal.
Yeah.
Energy drinks, all these hydration drinks out there, all this stuff out there. If you don't, we're going to talk about Bilo. Bilo is our proprietary formula where it is the most bioavailable ingredient that drives all these ingredients and nutrients we have to your cellular level.
Yeah.
Here's the big thing. And I'm not going to take too much time. Most products are just, people throw stuff together, go, it's great. You got this, you got that, whatever. But what we do is our doctors and formulators have put together ingredients in the most synergistic method possible. So they all work together. So Our products go straight to your cellular system. You don't, quote, urinate a lot of it off, which you do with
Mhm.
these vitamins,
Right.
and you have the most bioavailable product out there. So that's, God, that was unbelievable. I couldn't even ask you to write that in. That was a great, great.
No, that's
Our whole thing is about, and that's what I'll start wrapping with, is that
sure.
Biolo is 7 times stronger than any aloe vera extract ingredient out there. And I've been on aloe vera. Aloe vera is a great product. Centuries of quote miracle a product.
Right.
And I can't make any claims. I'm not going to make any claims. But I got to tell you something. I've been on this concept for 28 plus years, as my team has. I don't take flu shots. I don't take vaccinations. I don't take all that stuff because my immune system is such at a level that
Right.
it's like your car. If your car's tuned up kind of sort of good, but you need, or it's running well, but you need a little tune up, you're good. If your immune system's fairly healthy, that's what you need, because I don't care what vaccinations, what you take. If you don't have a good basis, like foundation, your home, you got a bad foundation.
That's absolutely right.
Exactly.
Kevin, I can't thank you enough for coming on tonight. And folks, he just nailed it. It's the immune system that really, really, you have to build up your terrain. That's what it's all about, is building up the terrain so that you can battle against what will be coming. I guarantee you. Why? We'll talk about it. But I wanted to say thanks, Kev. And anytime you want to come on, hey, your door's always open.
Joe, thank you so much for having me. You know what? I'll come on every week because you know what? This is why I get up every morning. I love helping people. And I got to tell you, we're changing lives. You can go, when your listeners go on the site, you can go down there and look at all the testimonials, and people say, not only did it, change my life, it saved my life. So it's good stuff. Joe, thank you so much. And from Texas, hey, giddy up. We're having fun down here.
Awesome. Folks, that was Kevin Kiekler of Fuel Up. So make sure you check it out. You're going to see the graphic go up, all of that kind of stuff. Fantastic product. FuelUpHydration.com. Check it out. And of course, we'll give you the link to get a great deal to support KGRADB. So going into what's going on in the world. And I have to say, I am quite, I'm not going to say I'm disappointed or even surprised at where we're going, because you have to understand that the powers that shouldn't be, they do this. This is their playbook. The playbook is create as much chaos as you possibly can. Why? Well, because out of that chaos, you control. They've known this for a long time. Sigmund Freud really started down the path of psychoanalysis, but in a way that controlled the masses through the desires. And his nephew, Edward Bernays, perfected it and then wrote 2 pivotal books that really transformed our society, our world even, from a needs-based society where you bought what you needed. Extravagance was not part of your vocabulary. Even into the 1980s, up into the 1980s, you didn't have these McMansions and things like that. That didn't happen. You had high interest rates in the 80s. Now we're going to be returning to that and then some. Wait, this is just now all getting started. But the standard of living was different. And again, it was more needs. Now, over time, that was transformed to a desires-based society where people were offered the things they desired, or better yet, what they wanted you, and what corporations throughout America, the world, and also governments want you to desire. So you had things like General Motors, with the world of tomorrow, and they would have all the futuristic landscapes and all the vehicles on there, and they were all futuristic, and everybody's, ooh, I want one. The Model T was made affordable so that everybody could have a car. Now that was that was liberating. Think about that. All of these things were done as a desire to sate the desires, because they found that when you cause a bunch of chaos and then you follow it by the factor, it wins out every time. So 1923, Crystallizing Public Opinion was written by Edward Bernays. And that was his initial work post World War I, where he was really in charge of Woodrow Wilson's PR campaign for World War I, and really shaped the whole messaging, the positioning of all of Woodrow Wilson's decision making, and came out with some very powerful tools. Like, for example, changing and tweaking language is a tremendous tool in their arsenal. Department of War, Department of Defense. When you hear those two words, you understand why they changed it. War and defense, one being provocative, the other one being, docile. It's defense. We're defending democracy. Edward Bernays made the capstone phrase of World War I was making the world safe for democracy. That was the phrase that he came up with, that he sold to the masses, because Americans didn't want to go to Europe and intervene in the carnage that was going on there. And it was terrible. Ukraine is another area where we have to be concerned about what we're doing, how we're doing it, how much money is being sent over there, and equipment and resources, when we've got some really big problems going on over here. And it may sound a little insensitive, but I got to tell you, if we collapse, then Ukraine has nothing anyway. And we're heading fast that way. And I don't say that from like a fear-mongering standpoint or anything else, but I'm just going to use history as our guide tonight. Also highlight some of the preparations that are being made for this kind of scenario to unfold, or a scenario. It's not what you think. It's not global warming. It's not a collapsing economy. They're racing against time in so many different ways, and they have so many different things converging that when all is said and done, humanity is going to be very different looking. We'll put it that way. So I want to start out with crime, the transformation of society, the demoralization of society. That is a numero uno in the communist playbook, right? I learned a lot about that in the military, but I also learned a lot about it by G. Edward Griffin. He did a great interview with a guy named, hold on one second, Yuri, oh boy, I got to remember, Yuri Bezmenov. And it is a unbelievable interview where he describes deceptive misinformation campaigns, propaganda campaigns, demoralization campaigns, all with the end game being societal transformation and control. And what you're seeing now is nothing but that. Think about this for just 1 second, right? What does sexuality have to do with the workplace? You go there, you're professional. All right, we interact, but you're professional. What does it matter what gender you are or anything else? You're there to do a job. You do a job, you go home. I don't get it. I don't understand. So they make issues where no issues should even exist in the first place. And they do it in every single arena to destabilize the situation. And then they will suggest a result, Hegelian dialectic, that they wanted all along but couldn't get before. That's what's happening now, right? Think about defund the police. Look at Portland, right? Portland is a very, very, very different place. I don't buy into the left-right paradigm, and you won't hear me say liberal, conservative. I hate that. They're terrible labels. They're meant to control you, and they do. They narrow your focus. Portland is a very interesting place. That's all I can say, because they've defunded the police. They've also given people a lot of freedom to do things that you don't have in other places or cities throughout the country. On the flip side, you also have an exodus going on of businesses because of rampant theft and destabilization and demoralization of society there. So what's happening? Well, in Portland, Oregon, they are shutting down every Walmart in the entire city because of the theft. It's what it is. Listen to this. This is Michael Snyder, the economiccollapseblog.com. He said by the end of this month, there'll be no more Walmarts in Portland. More than 641,000 people live within the city limits. So you'd think that there'd be enough money, right, to support maybe one or two. But Walmart has decided to wave the white flag. This is Walmart. Portland has been transformed into a complete and utter hellhole. And apparently Walmart executives have determined that the things going on there aren't going to turn around. And they're not going to turn around anytime soon. So they've closed the last two stores in Portland. And they'll be done at the end of March. A spokesman for Walmart used very careful language, though, when they explained the closure. They said, quote, "The decision to close these stores were made after a careful review of their overall performance. We consider many factors, including current and projected financial performance, location, population, customer needs, and the proximity of other nearby stores when making these difficult decisions. After we decide to move forward, our focus is on our associates and their transition, which is the case here." Now, if you think about that, that's not exactly telling the truth now, is it? Because we know why they're doing it. But when you have one of the biggest mega corporations that push that agenda, that very agenda that's forcing them to close their doors in one of the biggest cities on the West Coast, yeah, that's a problem. Now, Walmart is also one of the biggest recipients of corporate welfare in the country. A lot of people give Elon Musk a load of manure because he takes advantage of government grants and things that were passed by law as incentivization and or some sort of rebate or tax abatement for going green, for doing green things, right? Even with SpaceX, did it because tragedy struck and another shuttle is lost and they have to retire them. And we weren't ready for that. Why? Well, because we probably have other priorities we need to take care of instead of the space shuttle. So they went private, and he smashed it out of the park. And did he receive some government grants? Oh, I'm sure he did. But had he not, and he didn't do that, SpaceX wouldn't be there. And let me tell you something. Nothing about Blue Origin, no knock on them, or even Virgin Galactic, but it's just not. It's not SpaceX. I'm sorry. So now take a look at Walmart. Walmart intentionally suppresses their salaries so that their associates can then get benefits through the state, food stamps or EBT, government assistance, Section 8. So by the time they receive their benefits, along with their Walmart paycheck, some of them full-time, some of them not, they're making $60,000 or the equivalent of $60,000 plus a year. And have no responsibility, really, if you think about it, outside of just stocking shelves, ringing things up. You go around your Walmart, you see some people are motivated, some people not so much. But it's the way of the world, So anyway, Walmart's closing their stores. Why is the real reason they're closing the stores? It's the same reason why all of the small business owners in Portland are doing that. And so here's a quote from a customer that was interviewed about the store closing and addressed the real reason. He says, we got to resolve the shoplifting one way or another because it's simply a problem. It's got to stop. And at this point, much of Portland has turned into a giant tent city. It really has. Okay, so now let's talk about that for a second, because that's a very telling thing. So Portland, Oregon, one of the biggest cities in Oregon, is a tent city. Why is, first of all, what does that tell you? What that tells you is the economic activity, the things that made the United States strong and powerful, is dead. You have inflation that has gripped the country that's not going to stop. They're not going to be able to stop it until they destroy the economy. And that's the only way it'll stop. Now, to do that, they're probably going to have to jack up interest rates to the point where it crashes it. But they won't take it that far. But you have two routes. It's going to be hyperinflation or crash. In either case, even today, with all of the, what you would think, higher interest rates, you still have historic highs for housing. Critical shortages for rentals, low to middle income housing. Do you think that was done by accident? Of course not. How do we all of a sudden don't have enough housing? How did that happen? Well, even if you did, you couldn't really get it because they're not building enough to keep up with the demand. And the problem there is you have BlackRock, you have foreign countries like China that are buying up swaths of apartment complexes, townhouses, suburban houses, you name it, they're buying it up. And there's a shortage because they're going and flipping them at historic prices and driving the market up. And what does that do? It drives up rent. It drives up everything to the point where people can't afford to live. But that's only one problem, you see, because housing's a problem, a big problem. Some people are seeing rents in the New England area. I want to say the rent for a 3-bedroom house right now, if you were looking around, average is probably close to $2,500 a month. That's ridiculous. How do people... Oh, and here, by the way, too, let's take the grocery store ShopRite. The grocery store ShopRite has clerks that make $19.20. You go in the door if you want to stock shelves, $19.25 an hour at a grocery store. Hey, that's great if you can get it. But the issue you also have is they hire so many people that you don't get the hours you need. But again, you're looking at corporate welfare, or that welfare where the government comes in and supports the corporation. And you're seeing that too. And it's all being done through the tax system. When you take a look at the amount of taxes you pay, it's staggering. And even those of low income, you are not immune to the tax man, even to the point when you go play the lottery. That's all taxes. They call that the po man's tax because that was one of the deceptive ways they got people to contribute to the tax burden, or to pay off the tax burden, was by, starting a lottery. Well, give them the false concept that they're actually going to win something. And sometimes people do, but the odds are surely stacked against you. So then we have this food problem that's going on too. This is another thing. So food, big problem. I want to talk about beef cows. It's been a problem now for a long time, last 5 years or so. Weather certainly has a role to play in that. And this is where it kind of diverges from, it might not be what you think it actually is. We'll put it that way. So I want to start out by getting this article out. It's the mostimportantnews.com. Americans need to be prepped to eat a lot less beef, they say, because the size of the national cattle herd is steadily shrinking. And of course, this is happening in the context of a much larger crisis. Now, CNN is admitting that we're in one of the worst food crises in modern history. Just think for a second what we have been through recently with the avian flu, killing most of the chickens in the United States, causing eggs to go to historic high prices. So low to middle income people, no eggs or very limited eggs. I will tell you this. I used to eat eggs, every day because they were cheap and a great source of protein and good stuff, right? Can't anymore. Not when, 2.5 dozen eggs are $20. That's crazy. Who the heck can afford that? But that's only part of the story. Listen to this. This is about beef cows, which, by the way, the population of beef cows in the United States have fallen to the lowest level since 1962. It says the USDA biannual cattle report showed that as of January 1st, 2023, there is an 89.3 million head inventory, which is 3% lower than the total from a year ago and the lowest since 2015. Now, of that number, 38.3 million cows and heifers have calved. Additionally, there are 28.9 million beef cows, which are those explicitly bred for slaughter and meat sales. So as of the start of this year, which is already down 4% from last year, lowest since record keeping began in 1962. Remember this. In 1962, you only had 184 million people in the United States. Today, you've got 331 million people. Oh, so that's a bit of a problem. And if you think beef prices are a lot now, wait. people don't realize the gravity of this shortage because we're still eating the cattle that was slaughtered some time ago. So it hasn't even caught up yet. So you have beef, which is a staple food item here in the United States. See you later. So chicken, beef, eggs. Oh, well, then you have all of the vegetables and the fruit, because California, of course, is vegetable mecca in the United States, or at least was. And now we have a serious problem going on there with drought. And then you have issues with San Diego and the desert getting a big snowstorm, one that they've never seen before. This is where things start to diverge and where we start to talk about what's causing all these kill-offs, what's causing all of these issues that may not necessarily be the powers that shouldn't be, something that may be outside of their control. So that's what we need to talk about. There's a lot of things that they're trying to do to mitigate it. However, I think they know, as well as you, that their time is short. And the reason why it's short is the Earth is changing, along with all of our other solar system brothers and sisters out there. They're all changing. The sun is changing. And it's all a result of that galactic cycle. And we are headed towards that next cataclysmic phase where the Earth will tilt 90 degrees again. And when it does, it is like a giant eraser on a whiteboard. And everything that we may have known, except for very, very, very few areas, and I don't even think that's guaranteed, quite frankly, outside of like the Giza Plateau, which I think is that could probably survive most anything. Yeah. Outside of that, nothing really makes it. So you see the powers that shouldn't be, or those billionaires and everybody else. Well, they go and they buy, hundreds, thousands of acres in the Ozarks, down in Ecuador on aquifers, New Zealand, a very interesting hot spot for the elitists to build their bunkers. And when I tell you bunkers or castles, fortresses in the mountains, underground, fully capable of supporting life for decades, assuming that, Earth tilts 90 degrees, I have to imagine that might have a few earthquakes, volcanoes, perhaps some tidal waves, 1,000-mile-an-hour winds, things like that. So how do we know this? Well, we know this because we are paying attention to the sun. We know this because the poles, the north and south poles, the magnetic north, the magnetic south, have started to move at such a rapid pace that they've had to repaint the lines at the airport much more frequently, and the GPS data have to be updated, and it's been a giant pain in the neck for these pilots, and it's only getting faster and faster and faster. Now, as the poles migrate, no one knows at which point it decides to go, but when it does, we do know that it's a very, very fast event. Scientists, and I say that in quotation marks, scientists over the years have diverged from the sound science of going and observing and seeing the evidence as it's presented and actually like scientific method, yada, 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 right? And instead gone with these millions of years, billions of years without telling the whole story. See, because they can claim that they're telling the truth, and in a way they are, but it's not the whole truth. And when you conceal or falsify information, you are still lying, you know? Concealing is just as bad as just omitting or anything else. So when you look at the history of the Earth, you could say that the Earth is billions of years old. You could say the Earth is thousands of years old. And you could say it at the same time. Because the Earth seems to have a process, much like the other planets, much like the sun, where it resets itself. Almost like a reboot. Kind of where Mother Nature wipes the slate clean. And only select few survive. The last time it happened was Noah and the flood. You can go to many places throughout the world to see evidence of the flood. It's an amazing journey to go to, say, the Grand Canyon and looking at the strata and seeing how all of that laid in and how it was so rapid when it did. A great documentary done by a brilliant gentleman named Del Tackett. Del Tackett did a great documentary called Is Genesis History? And that's just one document. Genesis and the Bible itself is just one piece of a very, very unbelievable story and puzzle. You know, when you take a look at, say, the Titans, you can look and find and validate that all of that was true, that giants walked the earth, that godlike people walked the earth like it was Lord of the Rings. And then something happened. You know, when it was not too long ago that a bunch of shiny buckles from Washington, D.C. flew down to Antarctica to go observe a pyramid that had appeared after an earthquake. And I mean, it's not like it came out of the ground like, oh, this golden pyramid. No, but the snow kind of broke free and they saw evidence that a man-made structure was there. Now, when the earth flipped 90 degrees last time, Antarctica was up by the equator, right? Flip it. Well, now it's going to go back to where it was of the equator. What's going to be there? Who knows? You got to remember when this happens, it is quite cataclysmic. When you look at how it is documented and the lore is translated down through different cultures, you find a lot of parallels, but they all speak of cataclysm. And that's just something that you're going to see more and more of as people or science or governments look to control while they try to play God and figure it out. There's a couple of reasons why we're racing so fast with AI. Some of it has to do with money. A lot of it has to do with they think it's the savior. If they can get to general intelligence, they might have a chance to be able to avert catastrophe. However, I don't think they can. The reason why is at the same time all this is happening, our magnetic field is dropping. Our magnetic field is dropping. And interestingly enough, folks, when you take a look at the reporting of UFOs and unidentified aerial phenomenon or whatever they call it now, I kind of see a parallel between the shields dropping and more of these things happening. We also see the fact that there's been a lot of, say, intellectual theft from alien technology. And when I say that, I mean historically, take a look at the Nazi Bell experiment and their UFOs that they were flying, utilizing what my old friend A.C. Griffith introduced me to, scalar energy or energy from the vacuum. Guys like T. Henry Murray back in the early 1900s, 1920s, built a box about 2 feet by 2 feet that could generate 50,000 watts from nothing. And I say nothing, but really it's the sea of energy around us. And it wasn't soon after T. Henry Murray made his box that the quantum science, the quantum physics arena came about. And soon after, this concept of a holographic universe. And if we are in a hologram, or if that is truly the nature of our reality, you could, in fact, tap into that energy that's all around us. No different than when you look at your LED display as you're watching this right now. All around, those pixels are energy all around it. It is just unbelievable. Now think about that for us. Same thing. If you can tap into that, which these craft did, which technology did, both the US and the Russians developed this technology. It's all, Tesla technology, all of it. This is stuff that's been occulted from us and is in turn trying to be used to avert catastrophe. Or in their eyes, they think they are, but they're really not. You see a lot of talk right now about governments, or not even governments, pardon me, private companies going out and trying to dim the sun. And it's a very slippery slope you go down. Snowpiercer, great movie. Check that out. That started out with chemtrails. Chemtrails have been going on for a very long time. Don't let them fool you. When they talk about, the sulfur dioxide, putting it up in the atmosphere, that's only one of many things. Chemtrails come in many ways, shapes, and forms. Evergreen Air is one of those companies that, for many years, was behind the chemtrail program. But there are many ways that was deployed. And I'd say up until about 5 years ago was kind of one of those major things that made people question what they're being told. A lot of people get called conspiracy theorists. I met a very nice lady today at Walmart, and she, just kind of getting into the whole conspiracy arena. And I explained to her, where that term came from, because words are powerful. Remember, you're a conspiracy theorist. Why? You're a kook. You shouldn't question the authority or the official narrative. How could you? And they came about, of course, in the early 1960s in response to President Kennedy's assassination, and the fact that the official narrative was terrible. People's eyes saw something totally different. They questioned it, and they were vilified for it. They called them names. They arrested people. They terrorized people that question a narrative. They killed people that did that. So it's not surprising that the op-tempo, that the sense of urgency with all of this is starting to increase. And I think we're going to see more of this, both self-inflicted food shortages, and when I say that, means humans are doing this to themselves, but also earth-changed induced shortages. As you see the Colorado River drying up, there is some serious change that needs to happen. And the problem is, in our current construct, the way that our society is currently constructed, we cannot handle it or overcome the challenges. When I say the Colorado River, there's some talk of people that want to reroute the Great Lakes and merge it with the Colorado so it never runs out of water. But you have to understand that The longest pipeline they've ever made was the Trans-Alaskan pipeline, 800 miles. That was oil. You're trying to pump water 1,000 miles uphill, up mountains, down into valleys, all that stuff. It's damn near impossible. It'll take decades to build. And by that time, it's too late. They ran out of time. They dragged their feet too long. They overdeveloped places like Las Vegas and the West Coast when, quite frankly, they didn't have the water or they didn't understand the earth changes or what was coming their way. No one really understands. And it's really exposed the fact that, yeah, we've got a big problem. So Colorado River also, again, is responsible for the vegetables here in the United States. I don't know about anybody else, but I've been to the grocery store the last 2 weeks, and a lot of the fresh vegetables that are normally there, not there. And you go and you look at, the trades magazines and industry magazines, and it all says it. Big time shortages due to historic drought. And now it's just starting to hit because we were eating food from a while ago. Now we're starting to eat food after the drought really bit in, and we're starting to really feel it. And again, with all the beef, they couldn't feed the cows, couldn't get them up to weight. So you got to slaughter them. So they slaughtered all their cows. And when you do that, when you have a mass slaughtering like that, it could take up to a decade to get the population back up. The problem is they can't do it because all these farmers are folding up, or they just can't get the grass and all that they need because there's no water. It's unbelievable. And then you say, okay, well, let's go to chickens. Yeah, can't do that. Uh-oh. So we've got a big problem on our hands. And then to make matters worse, I was telling you about the homeless problem over on the West Coast. The reason why it's like that, a lot of benefits, lot of great weather, not as hostile towards homeless people on the West Coast. So you have a lot there. But a lot of it's driven by the cost of living crisis. Well, there's a lot of people also that were first-time home buyers that are absolutely underwater and screwed right now. ZeroHedge.com has a great piece. It says here, despite a recent softening in the U.S. housing market, a combination of rising borrowing costs and still high prices have put prospective first-time home buyers in a serious bind. For the first time since records began, first-time home buyers made up the smallest share of sales last year at 26%. And as we noted on Thursday, a surge in mortgage rates above 7% have sent home buyer applications to a 28-year low. So now as the spring home buyer season approaches, tight inventories and uncomfortably high interest rates mean that an American dream can only be achieved by those with high-paying jobs. Or they got to have lots of money, or even like rich parents, right? The average rate for a 30-year fixed mortgage climbed for a fourth straight week, reaching 6.65%, which, by the way, folks, is historically average relative to, say like 1920, last 100 years. 6.65 is actually on the lower side of things historically, just so you know. The issue is houses weren't $400,000 on average. So you could have a 30-year mortgage at 6.65%, and it wouldn't kill you because the house would only be $80,000. So the difficulty for first-time buyers has been getting worse and worse for a long time. During the pandemic boom, they were squeezed out when they competed against those corporations and people with cash. And then, the investors who targeted the starter homes or the flippers. So the typical household income for first-time buyers soared to as much as $90,000 in 2022 from about $70,000 in 2019. That's an unbelievable increase right? So affordability is just not there. So Zillow senior economist Nicole Bausch said the scales are shifted towards home buyers with higher income and a better financial background. Well, who the hell can have it in this day and age, if you think about it, especially where we're heading now? And when mortgage rates hit 7% towards the end of 2022, Zillow predicted that it would take around 10 years for an individual saving 5% of the median household every month just to set aside enough for a 10% down payment. 10%. They don't take 10%. It's crazy. So you have a huge problem we all have a huge problem on our hands. And if you can't get shelter and you can't get food and the water's drying up, you've got to do something about it. Well, don't you think for a second that they don't have a solution? We'll be right back after these messages, folks. Don't go away.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
Did you know 75% of Americans are chronically dehydrated? If you struggle with focus, run low on energy, or when it's time to finally sleep, you simply can't, this can all be linked to dehydration, and Fuel Up has the answer. Our proprietary formula contains the finest cellular hydration with the strongest immune-enhancing natural ingredients. The Fuel Up system is made up of 3 different incredibly tasting varieties. Wake kickstarts your day with a jolt of caffeine. Play boosts focus while hydrating your cells. Rest not only helps you relax, but also rejuvenates your cells while you sleep. Here's what our clients have to say.
I really don't miss my coffee, and you can tell the difference.
So I'm going to take it for the energy. I'm going to take it for the play. I'm going to take it, all day.
And it works. That's the thing. It works. We love it.
Take the Fuel Up Challenge now, where we offer a feel the difference money back guarantee. Fuel Up for life.
You're listening to the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. We provide unparalleled coverage of trending news in the world of ufology, cryptozoology, and paranormal phenomenon. Whether you're watching our video live stream or listening to one of our audio programs, you are getting the best from world-renowned researchers and hosts, guiding you through topics the mainstream won't touch. Miss one of your favorite programs? No problem. Head over to the members area at kgradb.com for access to our massive library of award-winning content. Make contact, stay connected, only at kgradb.com.
Well, welcome back, everybody. I want to tell after the Freedom Link, of course, we've got my buddy Popeye that gets to come on. And tonight, Judith Berry Baker is his guest. And I think you'll really enjoy that. So make sure you stay tuned after the Freedom Link, as Popeye's going to take care of you. And we're talking about the unbelievable situation we have, a convergence of many, many, many factors. We're going through as many as we can possibly get through in 2 hours tonight. So everything from cataclysm to some of the things that the cataclysm causes, like the build up to the crescendo, if you will, how they're trying to control people. Not try. They're doing a pretty damn good job, if you ask me. But also, if you notice, the void, the transfer of wealth from the haves nots to the haves has been strikingly accelerated. Basically, up to the downturn, the dot-com burst, if you will, the dot-com bubble burst. It was a very slow roll when it came to that transfer of wealth. You had one in 1987, but really it picked up intensity right around the dot-com bubble burst and the Y2K. So all this transfer of wealth has happened, and now you're seeing, instead of, the have and have-nots being like looking at each other across a chasm, you have the Grand Canyon where we're looking across each other, and a bunch of freaking people in tent cities and down in between. Why? Because they've fallen into the pit where they can't afford to live. And more of the people fall in as that erodes, and there's not much left. This cycle that we see is going to bring that to an abrupt end unless they can beat it. So you're going to see the integration of AI a lot more in our lives. You're going to see it have to be managed. Why? There's not going to be enough food to go around. And you're going to have people that are upset. Why? They can't feed their kids. There's nothing that makes people more upset than seeing your kid go hungry. And when that happens, parents will do just about anything. A couple of years back, maybe about 5 years ago, I think it was, down in Louisiana and Mississippi. It's down south, but the EBT system goes out, right? And man, was it all over the news, because it was out for an extended period of time. And it was a time of uncertainty for a lot of people here in the United States. We had just gone through the downturn of Wall Street, and growth was tepid. Still, I mean, it was tepid then, but just wait, that would have been good for what's coming. And the EBT system goes down, and people panicked. Now, it used to be said that the rule of thumb was, if the banks shutter or the society collapses, you basically have about 3 days worth of food in the grocery stores and in the supply chain system, or within that system. Man, they closed out those stores. They cleared them out in 3 hours. 3 hours flat, they were empty. And it was a really, really telling thing to know that everything you hear in that regard is a bunch of bunkum. It's kind of like being in a publicly traded company. If anybody out there, if you work in a publicly traded company, you know how important language is. At every step of the way, especially in management, language is crucial to the whole thing, to your success. It's almost like you can move mountains and you can do unbelievable feats of engineering, whatever. But when the time comes, if you don't articulate it properly, if you don't get that PowerPoint presentation just right, if you don't present it to the shareholders just right, all of that doesn't translate. Nothing translates. So they want to tell you, they're going to say what the shareholders want to hear. And many people, in turn, those shareholders aren't getting the truth or serious information, that, that transparency that everybody always wants. But it's not just there. It's everywhere. Anywhere where there's money involved, you have you have a problem. That's the only way I could say. You have a problem because nothing is what it appears to be. Because everybody wants to feel good. Everybody wants a return. Everybody wants instant gratification. Instant gratification that came about via Edward Bernays. See how this all goes back circular? And his crystallizing public opinion and his follow-up work, Propaganda, in 1928. And that's what it centers around. The desires-based instant gratification society. Because when you do that, people will do things they typically would not do when you start to add that into the equation. Gustav Le Bon wrote about it in his book, The Crowd. Holy crap. The Crowd, Gustav Le Bon. 1880, I think it was. When did he write this thing? 1895. 1895, he figured out people will do things in a crowd that they wouldn't do by themselves. I know it seems simplistic in a way, like, holy crap, this guy wrote a book on that. We all know that. But do you see, like, all the protests and all of the civil unrest that's going on throughout the country? What do you think that is? That's the playbook for that. And when you go in and then you don't prosecute those that do that, you've just basically made them, the thug cronies that go and break the legs of the people that don't pay the mob their tribute. That's what it is. It's in the book. It's the playbook. So these are the things that they use to control the masses, because now they have to, it's a race against time. It's either they're going to figure out a way to divert this catastrophe, and then if they divert the catastrophe, well, now we have a problem because we don't have the food to support 8 billion people on the planet. We don't have the resources right now to do it because the current system is totally freaking broke. So now they're putting in these things in place, right? UN Agenda 2030. You have Codex Alimentarius for the UN nutrition. But then you also have, and I'm going to bring this up because I want you guys to see this with me. So many years ago, about 10 years ago, Aaron and Melissa Dykes and myself, we started going down the road of, like mega cities, megapolises, and they stumbled upon something called aerotropolises, which was like a megapolis, but it was so much more of that because it builds up all around the airport. Everything centers around the airport. So check this out. So this was back in 2013. Denver Airport, portal to the New World Underground. And these are some of the pictures that you'll see that are murals there. There's plenty of stuff. Welcome to the DIA, it says. Denver International Airport. We have red-eye evil horse statues, murals of people being slaughtered, and secret underground continuity of government bases. Enjoy your flight. See that? Scotty Lopez. He's been around a long time. As a traveler arriving in Denver, the Denver International Airport can be a strange landing place. Planes touch down some 26 miles from downtown with the Rocky Mountains out in the distance, and closer, a vision of the odd mountain-like roof canopied over the largest airport in North America. On the perimeter of the runway is a vast prairie space destined for development. Now, inside the $4.8 billion airport is a modern concourse connected by expansive underground trains, past security in the baggage area, once meant to be an iconic automatic system that ultimately failed, where passengers cross paths with creepy statues of a gargoyle in a suitcase and walk past a series of murals that range in intensity from unnerving to apocalyptically creepy, with contrasting happy titles like In Peace and Harmony with Nature and The Children of the World Dream of Peace. The paintings instead conjure up dark images in an airport already saturated in obscure symbolism. Many researchers, as well as casual passengers, have raised questions about what they represent, pointing towards scenes of despotism, genocide, dead children, destruction, and ultimate global unification, amid what many believe are cryptic messages. Let me stop there for a second. The reason why they do this is because they put out what they're going to do before they do it. It's a rule. There is a multi-dimensional aspect to this. Whether you believe it or not, ain't going to change the fact that it's true. And there's a rule set that they have to follow. A lot of people call it universal law. You know, if you want to put it simple, if you hurt somebody to try to benefit yourself, chances are the universe is going to hit back at you pretty hard, harder than you hit at them. And you could call it karmic retribution, whatever you want to call it. It absolutely is the case and does happen quite frequently. That's just one aspect of it. There are many rules. Witches and warlocks, you know, those covens could tell you very that there are rules that they follow that transcend the physical. But these murals were there for a reason, because they're telling you what's going to happen before it happens. And everything is symbolic. Artist Leo Taguma had said that his murals convey a conspiratorial one world message, explaining to Westword.com in 2007, article titled Denver International Airport Conspiracies Take Off, that, well, the first part of the environmental mural is about the ways that humans destroy nature and themselves through destruction and genocide. The second part is about humanity coming together to rehabilitate nature and revive their own compassion. Okay, again, words. Or it's, we're just going to telegraph what's going to happen before we do it. So you have all of these sculptures, and you can see it here, right? But there is a whole lot of other things going on there and around there. And I want to bring up this map. So here's this map, if you guys can see it on the screen. This is a huge area. Underneath this, you have a deep underground military base. These bases and these airports, these mega airports, are connected via tunnels underneath the ground. They go all over the United States. And they do so at high speeds, you know, maglev type trains, and or even faster. There is a concept that was developed in the late 70s to the early 80s called the Aerotropolis. And what they said was, we want to build a mega city, but we want to make it the airport central to that. So what I have here on the screen is Masdar City. Masdar City is in the United Arab Emirates. This was the first megapolis that kind of, didn't really encapsulate Dubai International, but Dubai International so damn close to it that, okay, fine. And this place will definitely have an airport, an aerotropolis. However, everything here is that futuristic human management style concept where you live one with nature, almost like the Georgia Guidestones, right? As if the person that wrote the Georgia Guidestones designed this city. So Masdar City, Denver International Airport, Neom, Nashville Airport, Dubai International. Those I can keep going, but these are the types of that new world order type structure that is being put in place. Masdar City, right here, a green print for sustainable urban development. Back in 2008, Masdar City embarked on a journey and I remember when this came out, there was America2050.org that, and we'll try and pull that up in a second. I don't even know if it exists anymore, but because what they do is they'll change it from time to time. You know, that you have that, and then you'll have like right here, UN Agenda 2030. See how they change it? But Masdar City is a pioneer, it says, in sustainability and a hub for research and development, spearheading the innovations to realize greener, more sustainable urban living. So this is the footprint, right? This is the desert, by the way. And you have a city in the desert. This is supposed to be a megapolis. Now, I'm sure that in the grand scheme of things, it will. This is where it starts. But they envision this as I mean, you're talking like millions and millions of people living here. Now, as far as I remember, let's take a look at this. So let's go here. Overview. What's like living like in Masdar City? So in Masdar City, look at this. Oh, this is very happy. Happy times in the desert. Have some tea, unique destinations, sustainable living. So as far as here you go. The city contains one of the largest clusters of low carbon buildings in the world. Who gives a crap about low carbon building? Anyway, buildings are designed to high sustainability standards and certified by the Department of Municipalities and Transports or LEED's Green Building Rating System. Community amenities are certified under DMT's blah, blah, blah. So buildings use 40% less energy in Masdar and water compared to other similar buildings. Masdar City buildings are constructed with lower carbon cement and utilize 90% recycled aluminum. Great. All of the neighborhoods, look at this, in Masdar City, provide a holistic range of facilities and amenities to ensure a sustainable way of life. I know that they've kind of tempered the architecture down from the initial drawings that I've seen. This was back in 2006, 2008. But there's like no gardens on the roof yet, nothing like that. It was pretty interesting. This Leonardo residence. Oh, look at this. This is very nice. That's the one thing I will tell you about Masdar or about the Middle East. They are no slouches when it comes to construction. And man, I have never seen so much construction in one place as I have over in, like, say, Dubai. It's an unbelievable place to ever go visit if ever you want to go someplace interesting and unique. But this is the Leonardo residence, and it says grow your future. They have like all sorts of schools they're going there. They're integrating people, the work into like one building, one residence. You go to work there, you entertain there. There's no cars in Masdar City. You can't have any gas-powered cars. They're all like automated taxis, like Total Recall, you know? And look at this. What are you waiting for? Come on out. They're trying to lure people in. When you take a look at work, right? This is another thing that they want. They want that. They want it to be an innovation hub because they understand. Let me say this. they understand, and I'm going to stop sharing. They understand that there is a food crisis going on. There's an environmental crisis, a planetary crisis, a cosmic solar system crisis. There's also a population crisis. We haven't even gotten into that yet. So even if you could feed everybody, the problem is all your first world countries didn't have enough babies over the past 40 years to maintain a population that can pay for the next generation. Because you see now, folks, we have what's called social safety nets and all sorts of ways the government reaches into your pocket and spends your money. So in doing so, with this redistribution scheme and everything else, it requires another generation behind it to keep working and doing that. Well, we don't have that anymore. And Mr. Jones, what a great, oh, yes. Eugenics brought us the nuclear family propaganda. It most certainly did. Once urbanization happened, right? Once we went super urbanized, we first said, okay, desires and instant gratification. Well, I don't want to travel as far to the market. I want a shopping mall. I want the city life, right? When you do that, that comes at a cost. Now, all of a sudden, you don't have 10, 12 kids like you used to because that was free labor. And you needed them to be able to tend to the farm or when things were much more agrarian. That wasn't the case anymore. Now kids became a hindrance to your self-gratification, to that the century of the self. Watch that documentary if you can. What a great documentary. It really gets into it. And I cannot speak enough about Bernays and how he really pushed this agenda. So you're going to have, at some point in time, if you beat the cataclysm, and really it becomes a race. It's a race of, can our AI overcome and solve the challenge of cyclical cataclysm? I don't think they can. Well, I mean, I guess they could. What you would have to do is humanity would have to come together and say money is no longer the driver. Can't be. We're way past that, by the way. And that's not a communist type of thing. At some point in time, if humanity is going to succeed en masse, you have to get past the money thing. Now, slowly but surely, that's going to have to happen. Why? Well, in 2016, I did a documentary with Aaron and Melissa Dykes called Obsolete. You can check that out. It's on Amazon, but it's also on YouTube. You can watch it. And that has to do with the obsolescence of human labor. Because at the same time, there's another race going on, and that is, holy crap, what do we do when human labor is obsolete? So not only do we have a population problem, right, where the next generation can't pay, but you also have technology emerging where mass automation is going to do away with a lot of those traditional manufacturing jobs, a lot of the traditional jobs where you would have an operator of somewhere shape, cashiers, for example. Look at self-checkout. What kind of impact has that had? They knew that they were going to have theft that go through the roof, but they're saving so much money by not having a cashier that who cares? It's acceptable losses. They're still making out in the long run. Think about it from like a liability standpoint. You know, now you don't have that injury, that potential for injury or that human interface that goes wrong, you know, because of a disagreement or ineptitude. Now you got a computer that does the same thing every time. And you get the people to do the work for you. So people are going to the store to buy their things, and they are doing it for Walmart. Free labor. It's a stroke of genius. Now, Mr. Jones also made a great point here, too, in that lack of skilled laborers. Here in New England, there was a push for, again, probably 40 to 60 years where the trades weren't even really a discussion around the table. You know, tradesmen didn't really come up in discussion. It was always 4-year university. You have to go to college. And so that's what many families did. You either did that, you went in the military. The average age of a industrial mechanic in New England is 58. Just to put it in perspective. So now there's a push for trades, and rightfully so. Some tradesmen now, like a journeyman electrician, oh man, they make a lot more than an engineer would. Why? Because they're in such high demand. High demand. And rightfully so. At the end of the day, the last people to lose their jobs will be the ones that fix the robots. It's going to be the tradesmen. It's going to be the ones that can provide value. You know, when all is said and done. If you're in a service position, say like a Wall Street, let's just say a Wall Street banker, AI's coming for you. If you're, man, all of your services at restaurants, no, automation's coming for you. If you're looking at manufacturing, automation's already there, has been for a long time, but it's coming en masse. That's assuming if you can get the parts to make all the stuff to do that. Here's the other thing. So what happened with the war? The war over in the Ukraine, and you can call it what it is, it's the USA-Russia war. It has caused a breakdown of supply chains and absolutely destroying some industries. Pete Zihan, recently talked about the neon industry over in the Ukraine, where they're fighting right now. He said it was like 90% of the world's neon was manufactured there. It's all been destroyed. And neons, of course, you need it for lasers, you need it for chips, for the manufacturing process. You don't really think too much about these little things that go into the bigger things or that make the things that we've come heavily to rely upon. But it's causing people and companies and corporations to rethink their supply chains and make it more regional. Here in the United States, in the aerospace industry, it's being redefined. Redefined. Why? Because now all of a sudden the markets are changing. The dynamic is changing. Asia is sticking with Asia. The United States and Europe are kind of banding together along with the North American Union. A lot of people haven't heard that in a long time. But there's talks of that coming back. Of, the Mexico, Canada, United States partnership. At one time, they were talking about replacing all our currencies with one common currency, the Amero, and actually started minting some of them. It's pretty interesting when you start looking at all of the planning that went on and continue to go on, but how it's part of that is a lot of patience, It was Vladimir Lenin. He said this in 1917 there, and he was talking about the aid from financiers in New York City and London that really aided his ability to overthrow the government of Russia, the Tsar. And in his comments on the apparent contradiction of the links between prominent capitalists and communism, he says there also exists another alliance. At first glance, a strange one, a surprising one, but if you think about it, in fact, one which is well grounded and easy to understand. And this alliance is between our communist leaders and your capitalists. The Hegelian dialectic. Problem, reaction, solution. They got exactly what they want. China's doing exactly what it needs to do. They're testing out all of this dystopian technology. Why? Because they're going to have to use it. Masdar City, they're deploying the technology. Why? Because eventually you're going to have people that are going to be clumped in mass in these mega cities, these megapolises, or these aerotropolises, wherever it ends up. Here in the United States, they call them mega regions, where you have mega regions with mega cities, and then the rest of it's rewilded. You see some of that in Detroit. Detroit is being rewilded. The rewilding project was something that went on and on for years. I don't even know if it's still going on. I haven't looked at that in a long time. But that was another one. These are all things that were put into place a long time ago as kind of the next step in a process, so they knew which way to go. China, of course, again, being the beta test. And all of these voices throughout history, all of them spoke of a plan. Even back to 1776 and Adam Weishaupt, a plan. In 1920, Winston Churchill said, quote, "From the days of Spartacus Weishaupt to those of Karl Marx, to those of Trotsky, Bela Kun, Rosa Luxemburg, and Emma Goldman, this worldwide conspiracy for the overthrow of civilization and for the reconstitution of society on the basis of arrested development, of envious malevolence, and impossible equality," remember, 1920, "has been steadily growing. It played a definite, recognizable role in the tragedy of the French Revolution. It's been the mainspring of every subversive movement during the 19th century. And now at last, this band of extraordinary personalities from the underworlds of the great cities of Europe and America have gripped the Russian people by the hair of their heads and have become practically the undisputed masters of that enormous empire." Now take a look at what happened. And I would challenge everybody out there tonight to do some research into the Bolshevik Revolution and how that was executed, how it was financed. Churchill was absolutely right. And then I want you to look at that and then look at what's going on a world scale today. And you let me know what you think as far as similarity. And also, look at this. 1920, Churchill said that. Bang on. Brave New World, Aldous Huxley talked about the transformation, the need because of the inability to procreate. When you take a look at sperm counts throughout the world, do you think it's any coincidence that the sperm counts are plummeting as the magnetic field drops, as we radiate ourselves in 5G and all sorts of other different toxins and forever chemicals and you name it? It is absolutely no coinky dink whatsoever. So what did Huxley see? Oh, well, we'll just grow test tube babies and then we'll be able to genetically engineer them. So then they are from birth on their path and on a defined path where you have people bred for lack of a better term, slavery, servitude. You had middle management you had upper management, and then finally you had the alphas. Then you had the 1984. You think Orwell was clairvoyant? No. But he was in the know. He knew what was going on. He wrote about it. There is an enormous amount of planning and control that goes into this. And all of these people, all of the people, Council on Foreign Relations, what a terrible place. Hillary Clinton called it the mothership. It is the steering committee for all foreign affairs for our government, and even of other foreign governments. It has members of the press as active members, something that, as members of the press know, entering into or becoming a member of an organization like this instantly institutes biases and influences that certainly prevent you from following the truth, because the truth is the story. It boxes you in. All of a sudden, these entangling alliances that you have start to impede your ability to inform the public about what's really going on. And then the Council on Foreign Relations, of course, has the cream of the crop PR department, because now all of these reporters, all of these analysts, all of these individuals that go on live TV, all of them go and spread the word, go to deploy the misinformation or information that they want put out there, the narrative, how they want things steered. The Council on Foreign Relations is just one of many. World Economic Forum's another one. They're the ones talking about a great reset. A great reset where you live in mega regions, mega cities, where everything's tracked. Your refuse is tracked. Your sewage is tracked. Your sewage is analyzed for any contraband or illegal things. So then all of a sudden you don't need enforcers to enforce it. All you have to do is just go to the house, and or you don't even do that. You just lower their social credit score. And when you lower their social credit score, they are forbidden from doing social activities or impeded for traveling internationally. You name it. Oh, that was proved out in China. So all of these things are being put in place. Genealogy.com. We need a DNA database. Great. Well, let's start capturing that, and we'll have people willingly give it to us. Brilliant, brilliant plans that were executed over time that give them the genetic information they need to do what they have to do to institute growing of babies or humans when it is announced that population collapse is a crisis and that whole societies will be gone and or countries destroyed and insolvent. Look at Japan. Japan is aging rapidly. They have no population to take over for the old people. They're all old. So it's just a matter of time before they collapse. Europe, below 2.0, like 1.4, if I remember right. Matter of fact, I'm going to look up the birth rates of the world so we can all be depressed a little more about that for the last 10 minutes of the show. So let's see. World birth rates. Where's the next? You could tell by birth rates where the next powerhouses are of the world, where the next centers of activity are going to be. So let me see what there's a table here. Let's see, 2022 world birth rates. Let's see. Here we go. All right. So It says that 17.668 births per 1,000 people. That is the current rate of the world. And let's see, we want to get birth rate by country 2023. So as we look at this, and I'm going to pull this up so you guys can see it because this is pretty interesting. And I haven't looked at this in quite some time. So this is birth rate by country, and you could see the colors in here, and the blues, of course, more births. By the time you get to yellow, yeah, not so good. The birth rate is the number of live births per 1,000 people, and in a population over a specific period of time. It's closely intertwined with total fertility rate, which tracks the average number of children that women in a given country give birth during their childbearing years. So let's look at that one, because this is the one I'm more used to. So for most of the developed world right here, we're like 1.5. So if you look at the United States right now, we're ranked 133 in the world. We're 1.7. Europe, let's take a look at the UK. 1.7, 135. 1.6, Germany. Germany's in rough shape. Germany is, and they know it too, that they also are in that boat. Rapidly aging population. You start going down here into Africa, this is where you're going to see resource rich, right? But also having babies, lots of babies. This is where you're going to start to see power concentrated. Nigeria, the number one birth rate in the world, 6.9. Women have 6.9 kids on average during their childbirth years. Unbelievable. 1.7. 1.7. China, 1.6. Russia, 1.6. It's crazy. You get unbelievable collapse with anything below 2. If you start going 1.7, 1.6, terrible, terrible. So it says here, the top 10 countries with the highest fertility rates by birth. Nigeria, 6.8. Somalia, 6.0. Somalia, by the way, is going through a terrible, terrible famine. Terrible famine. And they're still having 6 kids. Congo, they may not live, but they're having 6 kids. Congo, 5.8. With Mali, they're tied. Chad, 5.6. Angola, 5.4. Look at this. It's all Africa. You go down here, top 15 countries with the lowest birth rate. South Korea, 0.9. Holy moly. That's crazy. That's unheard of. Puerto Rico, 1.0. Hong Kong, 1.1. Malta, 1.1. Singapore, 1.1. Singapore is another place. Very overcrowded at the time. Now, not so much. Now they're like, please have kids, please. China, the same way. Ukraine, 1.2. Spain, 1.2. Bosnia, 1.3. Look at Italy, 1.3. Cyprus, 1. That is collapse within a generation. These numbers here are collapse within a generation. You get into, like this right here, 1.7 for the United States. That says we have the millennials, but after that, we don't have anything. We're done. Dunsky. Russia, they don't have the millennials. Why? Well, they sent them all to war. Russia has a very different doctrine when it comes to war. They throw everything in the kitchen sink at it, no matter what, because they don't want to lose. But at the same time, all their men die, and it causes population issues. This isn't the first time that happened. It did it during the Stalin, not just during World War II, but also the extermination campaign that Stalin embarked on, really set them back. They never recovered from that. And with the continued low birth rate, that's going to be a problem. You're going to have this low birth rate and continue to do that as things get harder and harder, and people have to work harder to survive, because you don't want to have to bring a child into the world if you know they're going to suffer. And, when you look at life today, you could say, well, it's our responsibility as humans to carry it on. Yeah, but is it? Think about that. That's something that I would certainly like to discuss one time in the near future on this show, is how do you properly manage that, knowing which way we're going? There's always catastrophe. There's always crisis. There's always challenges that you're going to face. Life is a bitch if you think about it, right? When is it that it's, people say, well, eugenics and Planned Parenthood and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it certainly had a purpose. There was certainly an agenda. But as somebody who has, raised his kids and see the way the world's going now and how I was raised and how my folks were raised, is it a bad thing to recommend to your kids, don't procreate? Don't do it. Don't bring a life into the world. Seeing where things are going now, is it responsible? Does it have to do with responsibility? What is the responsible thing? Set them up for failure? Or is it responsible to say, no, let's have faith. Let's have faith. I don't know what the right answer is. I know that we're going to have kids, but I almost see Mother Nature. I almost see the Almighty. I almost see it. Yeah, selfish. Joe Fox. Right on, dude. Is it selfish? It is selfish. Very much so. Think about that. Would you have even thought of that prior to Bernays? When things were more agrarian? Hell no. You'd be like, oh, man, I need freaking 20 kids. Yeah, Mr. Jones, too. Great. Rapid. And this is when all the good stuff comes. What if people stopped having children during the Great Depression? See, the thing that you didn't have in the Great Depression that you have now is the social safety net. So back then you had bread lines and soup lines. Now you have EBT cards. So you don't have that visual. Or I guess you do if you pay enough time or spend enough time looking at transactions at a Walmart. But you don't have the bread lines anymore because that was all redistributed through EBT and food banks. I mean, you had soup kitchens and stuff, but and then social safety net came around. See, so back then, kids were your social safety net because they could go to work at 10, and work in a sweatshop, but they'd bring home money. And the more kids you had, the more money you brought in. And there were no fire codes to say you couldn't have 6 kids in a bedroom, and people did. Life was different. Now we have automation. Now automation is a threat and a blessing. It's a blessing and a curse. It's a yin and a yang, Pretty soon we'll truly be able to say, tea, Earl Grey, hot. And you'll get it. Hey, print me a t-shirt. Or, I would like a striped Waldo t-shirt. Great. There it is. When you do that, it's either going to be a free humanity moment or it's going to be an oh heck moment. We missed the bus and now we're enslaved. Either way, there's some changes are happening. And the problem is the changes are picking up the pace. It's a lot faster. We're being flooded with input, overloaded with input. And quite frankly, the human psyche isn't quite accustomed to working at this tempo with this much input and this much crisis and all that throughout the world. So it makes it really, really tough. But we'll all get through it together. And we'll do it every Saturday night from 8 to 10. And I'm out of time. But guess what? Popeye's coming up next. And he's got one heck of a guest. With some reach back to JFK. Pretty cool, I might say. And don't forget, fuel up. Hydration's the key. If you don't pee, have a good night, everybody. KGRADB.com. Take care.